So I'm not an expert on British criminal procedure, but from what I understand, Andrew was arrested but not charged with a crime, which means they could have detained him for 24 hours. It appears police held Andrew for 11 hours for questioning and then released him. Police must now go before a judge for permission to interrogate Andrew further. And as I understand it, that's normal procedure. Then they have 96 hours from the time of the arrest. That would be Thursday at 8 a.m. They have 96 hours to get that judge's permission to bring Andrew back in. So this is unfolding very quickly. And after that questioning, he may be charged. And then he might have to post bail. Problem is he has no money, and his older brother hates him. You know, the one guy who could post bond for Andrew is dead. There's never an Epstein when you really need one. I will tell you this, though, none of this would have happened if the Queen were still alive. Then again, this is what probably killed her in the first place. Andrew was stripped of all his royal titles in October of 2025. No longer HRH, His Royal Highness. Charles, his older brother, stripped Andrew of his titles as Duke of York, Earl of Inverness, and even Baron Killyleagh. I mean, not letting your younger brother keep the title Baron Killyleagh? I mean, that's just being petty and vindictive. But now that there's an opening, if King Charles is watching, I think David Feldman would be the perfect Baron Killyleagh. I'm going to need a castle, but here in the United States, I don't travel. Call me, Charles. Andrew also suffered the removal from the Order of the Garter and the Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order. Do you know how humiliating it is to lose the Order of the Garter and the Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order? Almost as humiliating as being awarded the Order of the Garter and the Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order. The royal family is like, like a sitcom. Everybody's got titles and nobody does anything. They just hand out titles to people. Anyway, Andrew is now a commoner, which means by law, he is subject to prosecution, presumably just like anybody else. Princess Anne is considered the family's James Brown, the hardest working royal in Buckingham Palace. She was actually arrested and convicted in 2002. So this has happened before. She was convicted for violating the Dangerous Dogs Act. I mean, sure, she's no longer the glamour puss she used to be, but I see no reason to convict Princess Anne of violating the Dangerous Dogs Act. No, it turns out it's Dottie, her English bull terrier, bit 2 children while she was walking Dottie in Windsor Great Park, and they convicted Anne. But the BBC reporting that with Andrew, what we now know so far about the arrest of Andrew is just the tip of the iceberg. They say what we know doesn't compare to what we don't know. And it looks as though we may actually find out, or at least some of it. They're prosecuting. Other countries are going through the Epstein files. Pam Bondi says, case closed. Europe is saying, Donald Trump called Andrew's arrest, quote, a shame and very sad. Trump claims he never met Andrew. Here is Trump with Melania not meeting Andrew in 2000 down in Mar-a-Lago. And here are Andrew, Melania, and Jeffrey Epstein not meeting each other at Mar-a-Lago in 2000. There are reports in the Epstein files that Andrew and Trump attended the same orgy down in Palm Beach that may have involved girls, 14-year-old girls. So does that mean Trump is lying when he says he doesn't know Andrew? Do you really know someone just because you attended an orgy together with underage girls? Allegedly. I mean, if it's true that they were at an orgy with underage girls, I mean, I'm not sure there's any small talk going on where people get to know one another. I mean, you can be married to somebody for 20 years and not really know them. Maybe Trump is telling the truth when he says he doesn't know Andrew. Why was Andrew arrested? Prince Andrew, formerly Prince Andrew, as you know, held the post of trade ambassador during much of the time he was associating with Jeffrey Epstein. In November of 2010, right around the time Andrew claimed to have severed ties with Epstein, according to newly released files, Andrew forwarded a report to Epstein written by a special advisor on British trade about investment opportunities in Hong Kong and Vietnam. It gets worse. According to new reporting, the files show that within 5 minutes of Andrew getting this government report, Andrew immediately sent it to Jeffrey Epstein. This would be right around the time Epstein was helping to pay off some of the debts incurred by Andrew's ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, whom Andrew was living with inside the Royal Lodge. So they were divorced, but they were living, I think that's in sin if you're divorced. They were living inside the Royal Lodge. Now, this is an actual picture from inside the Royal Lodge. This is where Andrew was living up until a week ago. This is the sitting room. That is the standing room. That's the I don't feel like sitting or standing, so I'm just going to lean against the wall room. That's the breakfast room. That's the brunch room. That's the snack room. Sometimes on a busy day, the royal family often combines their snack with brunch. They call it snatch. It's a little snack with a little brunch. So this is the snatch room. Whenever Andrew was in the mood for snatch, he'd have his snatch served in this room. That would be the snatch room. And here is the amazing thing about the 30-room Royal Lodge. 30 rooms, one toilet. One toilet. And that is where Andrew and Sarah Ferguson were living until King Charles threw them out last week, although I think Sarah left before Christmas. They were living together at the Royal Lodge despite being divorced. That must be a sin. Are you allowed to live under the same roof with your ex-wife or your ex-husband? Who lives with their ex-wife? Who lives with their ex-husband? The whole point of a divorce is no longer breathing the same air they breathe. So, I don't understand these people. Why was Andrew arrested? Okay, so there is the serious breach of state secrets. Andrew, according to the Epstein dump, also sent private memos to Jeffrey Epstein on December 24th, 2010. That would be Christmas Eve. And he sent these memos, which were classified or maybe confidential. I don't know how they categorize secret memos in Great Britain, but it was not for Jeffrey Epstein to read. Andrew, according to the Epstein files, Andrew on Christmas Eve sent Epstein a document outlining the British Armed Forces plans to rebuild Helmand Province in war-torn Afghanistan. Andrew was forwarding the document to Epstein as a possible investment opportunity involving gold and possibly uranium that they were going to dig for in Helmand Province, and it was being paid for by British tax dollars. That's what Prince Andrew, then Prince Andrew, sent to Jeffrey Epstein on Christmas Eve. Instead of state secrets, I would have gone with a monogrammed handkerchief, but that's David Feldman. It's pretty bad if this is true. And again, you can get locked up for life, although I doubt anybody was trusting Andrew with really important state secrets. But let's play along with this farce that they're going for the big fish in Great Britain. When Lord Mandelson gets arrested, I mean, Andrew is a hood ornament. He should be arrested, but he has no power, no influence.